Hello again. I'm continuing my series on tactics of the left. Now, in the previous episode, I talked about lying and dishonesty as a tactic that's becoming even more normalized, and that there are no recriminations or punishment for being dishonest and knowingly dishonest. One thing I left out, though, was one of the motives for not telling the truth, not being honest about people who are on the right, or indeed anybody who disagrees with the progressive left. And that is one thing I've heard from them, is that they don't believe you deserve the truth because you're not good enough for honesty. You're not good enough. So when they put out that lie about the parliament, I cited an example of a meme that went round where they said this is a vote on stopping the Iraq war, this is the vote on a pay rise, and it wasn't that at all. It was completely false. It was a bunk, dishonest meme. I said, you can't tell people lies like that. And the two answers I got, first answer was, the issues are too important to limit yourself to the truth. The issues are too important. We need to bring the system down. So they bypass the truth. The other thing is that they don't believe that people who go, oh, excuse me, is that actually true? No, you don't deserve the truth. You're not enlightened. You're part of the problem. You're in the way. So if you say you can't say that about someone, it's dishonest. Well, they don't deserve honesty. And that brings me on to the topic for this video, which is dehumanization. So let me give you an example of what I mean by dehumanization. Now, to preface this, I believe that lying kind of erodes the soul. It's a bad thing for the individual who's telling the lie, because every time you tell a lie, you're kind of degrading your moral core. You're weakening it. Because if you start one lie, then another, then another, then another, and it becomes normalized and you don't get punished, there are no negative consequences. In fact, people reward you for lying through all the likes and the retweets that you get on social media. It will rot you and erode you. So lying is very bad. Honestly, it's bad for the people who are being lied about, but the damage is primarily to the person doing the lying. Dehumanization, I think, is far more terrifying prospect, because if you dehumanize someone, if you just think that they're not worth it as a human being, you can do anything to them. And this is why we have the atrocities, in particular from the 20th century and somewhat beyond, when we hear about people talking about having their rights stripped away from them. When we look at the debanking scandal, that's a classic example of what I'm talking about. That's dishonesty and dehumanization in one. Because on the one hand, the thinking is we're going to take that person we decree to be no good. They are against what we want. We've got this vision of the anointed, the promised utopia, and that person's in the way. So why don't we take away his bank account? Why don't we suspend, but then the lie is that they don't tell him the true reason why he's being debanked. Because we all know why they won't tell the truth. If they tell the truth, I mean, most people, because I think most people still have a shred of decency in them, will go, hey, that's just out of order. And what happens is that the elite, the anointed, increasingly start to feel that the majority of the world, the majority of society, are benighted, are beneath them, are contemptuous. So that's why they lie to try and cover themselves, while they push through their utopian. The road to the world that they want will have to include some dehumanization. So what happens is that they take away someone's bank account, and that starts limiting them what they can do. People have legally held opinions, and they operate in a society where, look, my money's just as good as anybody else's. I'm a customer. What I believe, what I think, who I am, does not impact on your company whatsoever. other than I bring business to your company, but my views don't impact your company. But that's not good enough. That they need to dehumanize, by taking away things that we've always assumed that you can have. You've got a little bit of money, you want to open a bank account, go ahead, do so. Nobody ever thinks I'm going to have my bank account where I keep my money safe, where it's available for me. Particularly if things are becoming more and more cashless, you're going to need a bank account. And to have that taken away from you, a lot of people have said, is having a bank account a human right? I'm not sure that it is, but you need it to function in society. So by taking it away, you are inhibiting somebody from participating in society. You're kind of making them a lesser person than anybody else, and it's a kind of new caste system is developing. And of course, the people on the lower ranks of the caste system are dehumanized. Okay, they're made to, they're confined, they're kept down. So I'll give you a few examples of what I mean and how dehumanization can occur in different ways. So I want you to cast your mind back to when Jordan Peterson became famous. And that was because he opposed Canada's Bill C-16, which mandated people have to use someone's preferred pronouns at risk of being arrested and getting a criminal conviction. And Peterson was against compelled speech. A lot of people think, he was anti-trans and all that. What he was saying, particularly at that time, was that he knows transgender people, and what pronouns he uses is something that's kind of negotiated or given out of a courtesy, but they can't be state mandated, and that's what he was objecting to. And he appeared on Canadian TV, and he was opposed by an academic and also LGBT activist called Nicholas something, but I can't remember the full name. But he was arguing he was the primary antagonist against Peterson in that debate, and there was a non-binary academic woman who didn't say much, but that was who Nicholas was trying to defend and speak up for. So that went viral. And then in a Canadian university called Wilfrid Laurier University, a postgraduate student called Lindsay Shepherd showed that episode of this Canadian talk show to her students, because that was the topic was on transgenderism and rights and pronouns and all that. So she thought that was an excellent thing to watch, so that could prompt a discussion. Now, allegedly, it was said at first that some of the students complained to the faculty, and that Lindsay Shepherd was hauled up in front of her supervisors. I think there was 3 supervisors in that meeting, and she was castigated and threatened by the supervisors. Now, it turned out none of the students actually complained about her. It was a stitch-up job from the faculty. But again, she what happened was that she recorded that interrogation, and that went viral as well, like Peterson's original video went viral. But what I found interesting, that was yet another roundtable discussion program with various academics commenting on those events. And I remember one had a left-wing race activist academic called Rinaldo Walcott. And he did a strange thing in this discussion. He kept referring to Jordan Peterson and Lindsay Shepherd as J. Peterson, L. Shepherd. I found that strange. And then I discovered that elsewhere people were talking about this incident and they kept going L. Shepherd, or referring to various people on the right or people who were in the centre but kind of they weren't on message with the progressive left on a number of details. So their names just became an initial and then the surname, as if they were names in a register on a list, as opposed to being given a title that they'd earned, or referred to by their full name, or using the Christian name like Lindsay Shepherd. How difficult is that to say? As well, L Shepherd. And I thought that was strange, because I'd never seen that in real life. I never see people talking to each other, referring to somebody who isn't present as, J Blogs. So it was weird until I understood what was going on. And that is, if you refer to Jordan Peterson as Jordan Peterson or Dr. Peterson or Dr. Jordan Peterson, you're kind of giving him his dignity. You're recognizing that he has a Christian name, somebody's Christian name. So when you're born, you inherit your family name. But you are given, it's the first thing you are given, is a name that marks you out as an individual. So I'm born and I'm given the name Nicholas. I'm Nick Hughes. And that makes me an individual. That I am not N Hughes except in a ledger. But I am, I have a Christian name and I have a surname, and that partially gives me, it's the basis of my identity. And when you don't use that, and you don't use a title that somebody's earned. Now, imagine Ronaldo Walcott is a doctor, a PhD, so he would be referred to, I would say, either Mr. Walcott, or Ronaldo Walcott, or Dr. Walcott. But if I called him R. Walcott in this discussion, it's just weird. I'm not giving him, whether I agree with that race studies is a proper academic discipline. He has earned the title of doctor, so I would have to bear that in mind when referring to him. But I call him Ronaldo Walcott because that's his full name. It's the minimum amount of respect I can give to somebody who I fundamentally disagree with. I disagree with his politics, I disagree with his attitude, I certainly disagree with his summary of what happened with Lindsay Shepherd and Jordan Peterson. But at the same time, I recognise that he is a human being. But when I look into this, and I started pointing this out a few years ago, this looks weird, and people on the right and the centre kind of agreed. People on the left were very aggressive and just saying, no, these people, they're not worth it. They don't deserve to be referred to with any respect or with any consideration. And I saw this recently as well, that Carl Benjamin put out a thing about respect and dignity. He was trying to analyse the spat between Ava Santini or Santana, it's not a real name anyway, and Lawrence Fox. And Carl's assessment was that Fox had felt that he or men in general weren't being respected by her, so he wasn't going to show any respect for them. So this is this is what happens when you dehumanize people. Ava Santini's sort of scoffing about male suicide. And even she was actually not just scoffing about male suicide, she was scoffing why anybody would want to pay serious attention to that issue. And again, that's dehumanizing men who are desperate, who are on the edge, and it's dehumanizing. Your lives just don't matter. And I've seen this on left-wing Twitter, particularly people who write for Teen Vogue magazine, just absolutely saying these people don't deserve to live. The right-wingers don't deserve to live, and you start talking about people as if they're a disease. I've seen that phrase used, that white men are a disease. Again, Eva Santini posted a couple of tweets, photographs, where she's in a pub with a drink, and they're on the other side of the pub, quite distance away, two men having a drink. That's, this is how I like my men, socially distanced. And she then further on explained that she considered men to be a virus. And that's really dehumanizing. Who are these men? We don't know. She doesn't care that these people have lives, they have a name, they have a personality. They have a role, a function. There's somebody's son. They could be somebody's husband or partner. They could be a father to people. But she doesn't care. Doesn't care about any of that at all. And when you don't use someone's name and you think that they're a virus, and then the ultimate extension of that, we scale it up. So we start, okay, Ava Santini and other feminists just consider men to be a virus, a plague on the planet. Then you scale that up to someone like George Monbiot or some of the people who speak at WF Forum symposiums. They're saying human beings are a disease, a virus, some weird aberration. And then ultimately you get genocide. And you saw this first in the Soviet Union with the Holodomor, is that the Ukrainian middle class were just not considered human. And so they were annihilated. And if you want to understand part of the reasons for the conflict that's going on at the moment, the war in Ukraine, part of it is why are Ukrainians putting up a fight so like that? Well, there's history, as they say. They're up against an enemy that doesn't consider themselves fully human. And we extend that. We extend that to the anti-Semitism of the Nazis and the communists as well. And we extend that outward to what happened when Yugoslavia fell apart. That certain sections of the population were not human and had to be exterminated. Now we're seeing in Azerbaijan whole people just evicted from their homes that they've been there decades, centuries, however long, but they're not human enough to occupy that land. And the left will talk about, you call illegal immigrants, that no human beings are legal. Well, that's hypocrisy, isn't it? Because you want to make certain people illegal, those who don't agree with you. When you say that at the moment we're facing big crises in the West, and I'd say in particular America, where even the Constitution of the United States pick and choose. You get the full benefits of the Constitution, but you don't. You get the full benefits of the nation's Bill of Rights, but you don't. And you don't not because you're not a citizen, i.e., you're entered this country illegally, or you're a foreign national just domiciled in here, but you are not a citizen of this country. So, yeah, you're not going to get a vote, and there are rules on what property you can own and how much money you can take out of the country. But that's not the same. They're saying you can't get a bank account, you can't get a job because of your opinions, because of the way you're politically aligned. You're not human, and you just spend enough time. If you observe a left-wing political bubble, you just look at their internal conversations, you'll discover that centrists and the right are not considered human. And that's very scary because, as I said, if they're not properly human, then they don't deserve human rights. And I've just... and this explains so much of the behaviour of the left. Why are they constantly interrupting people? Because they don't think the other person deserves their chance to speak. Because they're lesser humans. They're less than human because they oppose me. You watch Owen Jones. That's how he conducts every debate he's in. He always treats his opponent as somebody who just isn't human enough to accord any dignity. Same with Ava Santini, same with Marina Perkis. They all behave this way. And it's something that is very scary. I think out of everything I'm going to be describing in this series, the dehumanization is the most terrifying. So if you find yourself caught in a debate or an argument with these people, you got to assert your humanity. And you got to remind them you breathe the same air as them. And you have, you are a human being. And they should bloody well treat you like one.